Hi everyone. I just wanted to acknowledge from the land the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I feel blessed to be here and appreciate you inviting me to talk about my work with collections. Anytime one of my students goes into a collection for the first time, I sigh and I'm happy because I think this won't be the last time, you know. Once you sort of visit a collection, I think it gets hold of you quite a bit. And so today I'm just going to show you 3 artworks and just talk about how working with collections has kind of affected those artworks. My work comes from the position of being a Pacific Islander woman living in Australia, so being a part of the diaspora. And so I work from archives, personal archives and memories, family archives and stories, and songs and poems, and museological archives, and have learned over time the importance of having that kind of a combination. Because I think as a Pacific person coming to a Pacific archive, there's so many times that I've been in a situation of looking at something and it brings forth a memory from when I was a kid, when maybe I didn't understand the significance of something. I first met Dr. Teresi Munandilo with a Vengia project, which started out in an archive about Fijian women's rites of passage and the tattoo of Vengia. And it had brought forth this memory of when I was a kid in Ovalau, and we were staying with friends in the village, and they said, "We want you to come and meet this old woman." She was staying in like a house for her, like for an old woman. And I was a kid, I was like maybe 8, and I thought they said she was 301, but she was 103. But I was like, okay, I gotta meet this lady. Like, what's it like to be 301? And as we left, because I'm 8, I was like, oh, that's what it's like to be 301. Like, I still was in that belief. And we were talking about her Vengia, and it was the first time that I'd heard of it. I'm like, what's Vengia? And they're like, oh, it's the tattoo. And I was like, oh, can I see it? And they're like, oh no, you can't see it. And so, you know, and then we just went off for a swim, and so I would not remember that conversation until maybe 30 years later when I became the unofficial bus driver for the Vengia project. Because I was the only one who could drive a manual. And actually I found that in this introduction to collections and other Pacific peoples, amazing knowledge holders, that I not only learned more about my own culture, but how to discover things in my own culture, if that makes sense. How to align my own memories, but also, I mean, Teresi's got more than one random message from me, either a picture in it or a language question out of the blue, like, hi, how you going? By the way, what does this word mean? And quite often those things relate to what's not known in a collection. I think Brent, you were mentioning this earlier about, like, you know, quite often the maker isn't recorded, or the location, and this is the thing that I find really hard, is like that location isn't recorded, and if you know the location, then you can know the peoples who made it. And so, you know, quite often it's a bit like a detective novel, you know, you're trying to piece it together, and I find that it's a communal thing, asking questions and talking to people about that. And so I think that's what also keeps me going into those collections and asking my family questions. And actually it's in asking those questions that we all are kind of piquing like interest. And actually at one point I made a video with my family where I got to ask the questions I don't normally get to ask, because when you live in the diaspora, quite often when you go home and you ask a question, the answer is so vague, or then, or there, which could be like 10 years ago or 100 years ago, you know? Or sometimes it's like we've all lost a bit of knowledge. And I found that in making a video, not for exhibition, but just for the family, for us to record our own history, that we all held parts of the story, and we didn't know that we all held those pieces and were able to kind of piece things together. And actually I got the answer to questions that I'd asked 30 years previous, like, why do we have to be quiet and why can't we walk up that hill, you know? But yeah, so I guess I'm also finding out that truth in a record can come from anywhere, but most often I trust my family stories and then go to the archive. Just trying to work out, do I press the down button?
Yes.
Done. I'm actually going to go one further and then come back to it. I was commissioned to do a work for the APT 10 in 2021, and they asked me, what do you want to make? And I was like, APT, I can make anything, right? They're going to want something big. And I was taken back to a memory of when I went to the Fiji Museum for the first time. And it's changed now, but they used to have these two Fijian watercrafts. One was this beautifully crafted drua made from hardwood, not a nail, it's just like amazing ingenuity. And the other was this bilibili, which actually what happened to me as a diaspora kid is I walked into there and saw that it had a kitchen on the back. It wasn't too perfect, like I was realistic about how neat I was as a person, what my bedroom was like. And I straight away thought, oh, I could live on that. I could live in between Fiji and Australia. It's got a kitchen, I can do some swimming. It's like I might need to add a bike for when I, go somewhere. And then I started to get logistical about it. I was like, I better not live directly in between. I need to live like near some land to get my meat and veggies. And I was like, okay, which food do I want the most? So it was like, just plotting where that location would be. And so, and it was the time of COVID. And I was also, like, a lot of my work is about the knowledge that I don't know, that I can't find out, or I've missed out on, being away. And so my original plan for this bilibili was that it would be tied together quite badly. It would, people would come to it and they'd sort of be like, is this thing going to work? But I couldn't go to Queensland for the initial deal because I don't know if you remember, the borders were closed. And so I said to the team, we really need to have a Fijian person, put their hands on it. Just so happened, like vacuuming the hallway of the gallery at that time was maybe a brother of yours from Kandavu, my friend, who had made these boats before. So we had a real discussion about what would happen. And actually, the awesome thing for me is that this started off as my own memory. But because I couldn't be there, we just mounted a community project around people coming and building, or coming just to look and talk. And so, we had a Samoan tattooist come, and he brought his family, his kids, just to kind of see about it. And we talked about the knots and how the knot in the Samoan tattoo tool was the same as the knot that we're using on the pontoon. So there's a lot of like shared knowledge, and also like, you know, a engineering student came along. Just so like, what I really loved about it was like the same thing that happened for me started to happen for other people, and that was like that recognition of the ingenuity of our people, and also like what this is. So this boat is just tied together bamboo, and you know, it was used to bring goods from the interior down to sell at market. You know, the amazing thing about it is it's made to take the rapids because it's all those bundles, so it can move about and it'll still keep everything together. And actually, Carly, Teresa's husband, has been on one of those, and he did say it's a bit of a rough ride. And so actually the other thing we had is when I finally could get to Queensland is we all had these kind of like, we had the Fijian community of Queensland come, and we all talked about our connections to billibillies and what they were, and whether we came from places that built them and rode on them, or had seen them, or had even seen that original one from the Suva Museum. And what I did do was add a few comforts, you know, so you know, canvas top, I put a little big window in there, big bay window, an air mattress, which was supposed to lose air throughout the exhibition, as it did in my stay in the village, just because, you know, I am used to sleeping on a mattress. I don't know about anyone else, when you go to the village and you're not sleeping in a mattress, after the first night, it's like I've gained 10 years of life in my bones. I can really feel them. But yeah, so it really kind of is a self-portrait and for me, a discussion about diaspora in a changing of materials. So not using mangi to tie everything together, using what do you call it? Rope from seafaring rope, and just adding things like instead of a pandanus mat, like a Pacific mat, something we use now, you know. And like I made a barbecue for the back, because I'm a big barbecuer and I needed a barbecue to a certain standard. And so, in actual fact, it's kind of interesting because Goma then purchased this boat. So it exists in a collection, but I wanted to make another one, a better one, a one for holidays. You know, a few more decks to lie on, more room for a barbecue, that kind of thing. So I guess I'm trying to bring together the old and the new, and how like culture is constantly changing, and what is preserved and what isn't is really up to us, and how we like connect with these collections. And so I upped it a bit, made it a bit more comfy, and I'm choosing things like I could use tarp there, but I use canvas tarp because I'm thinking about the changing time when we go from woven sails to like canvas sails and so on. Like my materiality often relates to what exists both in Australia and Fiji, and where materials take over from other materials. And it's really about trying to make that a contemporary discussion. So it's about 13. Well, this one was supposed to be 15 metres long, but when they were bringing down the bamboo, it didn't all fit in the truck, so the truck driver just like cut the end off it. So often little things like that happen, and you're like, I've just got to go with it, right? One day I hope that we get to make one the way they originally were made in the water. You know, there's quite a lot of bamboo, so you're not really making that on land and then dragging it down. And actually there's this way of making it where, you know, the bamboo is being cut and then put in the water to see how it floats, and you know, there's just a real way of making the, you know, that's just my future hope for the third one. Hopefully we get to make another. And I always bring the same guys along, and they're like, they would say to me at the end of the job, where are we going next, Salote? Paris? You know? This work actually was made about I went and saw a whole bunch of collections, photographic collections in Cambridge. And I'm always looking for photographic evidence of my own area, Northall. And I'm from Rewa, and then a smaller area called Northall. So my searches often start off with Rewa. And I don't know if you notice this, quite often it says everything's from Banff. But yeah, so basically I was looking through maybe 3,000 photographs, and I was taken by how much information wasn't there. Like, who are these people? And I would say, actually, that happened back here with this research. I was looking at watercraft, and at one image in a book, the captioning of the image was no location. And I was just like it took me a couple of days. I was like, that's a location. I'm looking at a photo of a place. This craft is in that place. And so actually it is called, that's why it got that title, no location. Because no location doesn't exist. And so it's really kind of, in a way, a nod to the things that are missing from the way things were collected. And so basically with this work, after looking at all these photographs of watercraft, which was for the previous work, like that research, I was really seduced by the quality of those black and white photographs, and actually was very seduced by the reflections of the people in the water and the abstraction of that reflection. Because to me, I was like, that's what it's like to not know their names. And so all, like, on one side there's like photographs, not photographs, there's paintings that relate to things I found in collection, my own family members, the loss of people being away from there. You know, when somebody passes away and you're not there, it's almost like they're still with you all the time because you weren't there to grieve in the way that we normally grieve, which quite often in Fijian. And a burial is about actually seeing the body and being together for at least 4 days, kind of. So I started to kind of make paintings about that. And on the other side is like abstract paintings of these reflections in the water. And everything is a little bit off kilter. The water line, you'll notice, is very high. And that is because, you know, it's the reflections in the water. And then all of the paintings are precarious, so they're hoisted up and they're being held up by the weights. And the weights are like architectural, they're also rocks, you know, and they also speak to histories. And then underneath this like waterfall is a poem that is really about maybe the way I see the ocean. Because in looking at those photos, I was thinking about how we all touch the same water, and the water is sort of like linked to the past in the same way the photographs are. And so I think there's just something really kind of poetic about that. And I think being a person who lives in the diaspora, the water is, I mean, in the Pacific it's already like such an important part of life, but it's also the passageway into, you know, geographically, but also the past and potential futures. And so, yeah, it's I think I haven't, the video, if you would like a link to the video, I can send that to you later. You could just email me. So often my work definitely is about being in the diaspora and my connections and disconnections to home, to memory, the holes in language. So I kind of quite often make something from a memory and then take it apart a little bit. My practice is painting, sculpture, installation. This work is from Carriage Works. It was from an exhibition called I Remember You. It was actually one of the last exhibitions of its type. HeartsJ's doesn't really have a contemporary art program anymore, so I was actually fortunate to be the last person, sadly. Also, so when you enter the exhibition, you enter this like painting that has a hole in it. I don't know if everyone's ever been on holiday, and there's that like historic like kind of sculpture that you put your head in, and you know your parents take a photo of you as like a ye olde milkmaid or something. And this is just a painting made from a number of different photographs of my sister and I here in Sydney. And at the bottom there's sort of like a faded IKEA hay to it, and a little nod to our often contested Swedish history. I don't know, there's something dark on that settler colonial side. Like, no one can actually prove we're Swedish. People have tried, people have gone to Sweden, you know. And so the idea is that people will come in and put their face in that and become a part of that work and a part of that history. All of the paintings are a combination of like plants that are from the islands and from elsewhere, because I think about in that colonial project we see plants move around the world, and so I wanted to put them all together. The building is based on my grandpa's house. I've taken out some of the bits of corrugated iron just so you can see into it. There's also a bunch of masks that are all related to different elements and parts of my own life and history. They also riff off two masks that sit in the Smithsonian collection that are Fijian masks that I've never seen. But Teresa was recently there and I was like, can you take a few pictures of those masks for me? So also sometimes my connection to collections is people like going, hey, we found this thing we thought you'd like, and I get this picture from the other side of the world. But those two masks don't exist anywhere else. And there is one obscure reference to masks being worn around with banana leaf cloaks to scare people as if the ancestors are coming back to check on them. And so I just sort of am like pulling from these elements, and I know that I have to be careful about where things are coming from, you know, my choices. They're just always related to personal moments or something that I've found from a family history. So okay, so in the back of this is another little room, and it's a karaoke room where I've made a whole bunch of karaoke videos from my past and re-presented them. And so there's a big couch in there, and people would go in and just sing. There was only 3 songs to choose from, but you know, people went in there and had a sing. And I kind of, when you get a space that size, I wanted to present it sort of like, and I think that it's quite obvious, there's like a village house and the space and land around it. Yeah, so a lot of that is really coming from memory. This is a work that I made directly in relation to looking at objects in that Cambridge collection as well, of masi and adornments, and looking at this idea of how like what a diaspora masi might look like, if it's like truly telling a story of what you might and might not know. My grandma was an amazing weaver, and she invited me to her weaving circle when I was a kid, and so I must have been about 12. And I sat in the room with them for about 5 minutes, and then I went and climbed like 5 trees and collected some mangoes. And so for me, there's a real personal story in what's not known because of what I was climbing a tree, you know. Yeah, and so a lot of the time, I find lately in works that I make, there's always some element of my grandmother's presence in it. just because I don't know, I always feel like she should oversee things, and it just sort of has automatically happened. Yeah, I guess that's sort of, this is actually just 3 works of many works, but I thought these might very specifically relate to collections. The works that I make, that relationship to collection is not always direct materially. I feel like it's actually a collection of moments and conversations with people around these collections, or like items that end up in my dreams, that, like, I don't know, I can't kind of put down, like they don't kind of disappear from my thoughts, so I'm just kind of trying to follow the energies of things as well. Yeah, I think hopefully that's enough.